Hello and welcome to the Kickstarter Coach podcast. My name is John Garcia. This podcast is part of the KickstarterCoach.com coaching program. So you can visit KickstarterCoach.com, fill out a free discovery call with me. We are still offering the free 1 hour Kickstarter preparedness call. I look at everything you're working on. I look at your, if you have the Kickstarter page set up, obviously the game itself, and most importantly, all of your marketing strategies and tactics, and really just give you a fair assessment to see where you're at and how ready you are to launch, or kind of like the timeline or expectation that you should be looking at to launch. So it's a great service. It's absolutely free for the first hour. And then from there, if you think it's a good fit and you'd like to hire me as your Kickstarter coach, we offer a couple of options, but very affordable and definitely much less expensive than making a mistake that you might do going about it by yourself. So again, my name is John Garcia. If you're new to me, I am the designer of the Table Golf Association, a game that funded successfully with over 1,100 backers and over $150,000 in 2022. We did a follow-up to it called the Family Edition last year, and we're getting set to launch the newest edition. For those of you that are watching, I'll just pick this up real quick, but it's called Meeple Beach, and it is launching in exactly, well, today's March 15th. Tomorrow it will be 30 days. We're launching on April 16th. So we're really excited, and that's what this podcast right now is about, kind of like the journey to launch. And having posted in a podcast in a couple of weeks. But interestingly enough, one of my clients is launching on the same day as I am on Kickstarter on April 16th. It's a great game called Sacromancer. Designer is Doug Hops, and he's a very talented artist. The game, kind of came from some of the paintings that he has done, and it's just really well done. So it's super cool to see one of my clients, take the advice and recommendations. We have great calls. Doug is just very coachable person, which is the number one thing you need to be successful. And he just takes this advice and recommendations and has executed them so well. So I'm really proud of him. And just it's going to be awesome for us to launch together on April 16th. Anyway, I have taken a few weeks off of the podcast. I got married at the end of February, and it was awesome. And then we went to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic, and seems like a little stomach flu or stomach bug was going around during the wedding, and a lot of my guests were sick, unfortunately. We had about 40 people at least with all the terrible stomach virus stuff that happens. And felt fine on Sunday, but when I got to Punta Cana on Monday, I was a mess, fever, and all the nasty stuff you can imagine. So Monday and Tuesday for me over there were pretty much lost. Wednesday was a great day. We did some fun stuff. We did some dune buggies. We went to some caves. We did swimming in these little lagoons. It was awesome. So much needed little R&R after getting sick. And then we get back, and then the next day we jump over to Louisville to go to the Gamma convention. And got there on Sunday, felt fine all day, and then Sunday afternoon it hit me again. So man, I was sick Sunday and Monday. Finally, Tuesday, I felt better. Got to the quartermaster booth. We had a little 2 hour window to demo the TGA. Got to see James Tanaka, Gwen, and the team at quartermaster briefly. And just was not a great show for us. We weren't an exhibitor or anything. We were really just there to do that with quartermaster. And I just wanted to take it in. It was my first time at Gamma. Really felt good to be part of the community, to be officially in the industry. For me is a huge thing. I'm still kind of getting my wings under me and learning a lot of the industry. And so I was hoping I'd obviously get a lot more out of Gamma. Being sick just made it impossible. But met some good people, met a few people that, knew about the Table Golf Association game, but definitely didn't take full advantage of it. I'm wondering what you think about Gamma. Day one this year supposedly was different than previous years where it was designer day, but I felt it fell a little flat. The workshops were cool, but I think there needs to be kind of like more of a showcase or a more organized playtesting room if they're going to do a designer day. it was just kind of, I think they just called it that, and a way to get, fill in day one before really most of it kicks off. But I do think it's a great idea and it's a great attempt, to showcase designers. But, every part of this industry is super important. But obviously, the designers, I think, are the initial fuel, for the whole industry. You have to design the game first. So maybe a designer awards dinner could be cool, or some kind of acknowledgement um, for up and coming designers would be nice, just recognition. And by doing that, you just maybe help them, let the rest of the industry there know who they are, maybe what they're working on, and just facilitate more of that connection. For me, I'm still a little bit awkward about just going up to somebody and just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is my game. Believe it or not. And so I think, this convention being an industry convention, and, Kickstarter people were there. Obviously, all the publishers were there. It seemed like for the most part, it's more of all of the retailers coming and then, going to all the booths and seeing all the games. It's kind of like a buyer's event. But building around it, I think is really cool. This year we'll be going to Dice Tower. Dice Tower is kind of in our backyard. Orlando's not too far from where we live. So we do a booth, and this year we're also doing a demo table. So really excited. We keep getting bigger in this show. This is our third year now, and it's a nice show. It's not a giant show. You get to really meet people, get to talk to people. We do sell well there. We sold out of all of our games last year. Uh, so Dice Tower in July, if anyone listening can make it, please come down. We host a tournament. We give away games, we give away a nice trophy. So we always have a good time there. And then this year with the demo table, we think it's going to be great. And we'll be demoing Meeple Beach as well. Uh, so Gen Con is also on our, we just got our badges for that. So we'll be at Gen Con, not as an exhibitor. We will be host, or guest, I should say, of Indie Game Alliance and Matt. And they're great people, and we'll have demo times at the booth there. So we'll be talking about that. But Gen Con is obviously the beast. It's the monster of all board game conventions, whether you like it or not. I think it's amazing. I think just seeing a crowd of 70,000 people gather in the US for essentially board games is pretty powerful. Last year, we were at Lucas Oil Stadium at midfield. Me as a sports fan, being in a stadium like that was awesome. And we'll be hosting hopefully two tournaments this year, and we're gonna really amp up our game, if you will, with the tournaments. We're gonna make them much more interesting this year. Each person's gonna play 3 holes, and it's gonna be a little bit more tournament style. So really looking forward to that this year. I think last year was a lot of fun, but it falls a little flat, the format that we had. And so we're really just gonna, make it better. And then later in August, we're going to this new for us. It's been around for quite a while. It's called the Myrtle Beach World Amateur Event and Expo. Our game is definitely a different type of game. It does cross over. We're in the PGA Tour Superstores, and if you don't need to love golf to love our game. It's a dexterity game. There's strategy in it. It's tons of replayability because of the way that you set up your own course each time. But if you do love golf, it definitely is a game that shines, and it captures a lot of the nuances. It makes you feel like you're playing golf on the tabletop. So we're trying to expand a little bit more into the golf world. We're trying to get golf influencers to be part of our journey here. We're speaking to a few now through Instagram that we're excited about. So this is an opportunity. I'll talk a little bit more about it, but we work with a young man named Carter Bonus, and he has autism, and he's an amazing person, and he has his own company, and it's called Spectrum Golf. And his mom basically was the one that told us about this event. They've gone now several years, and they do very well there. So we are excited about that. That's in August. I haven't been to Myrtle Beach myself, one of the few places here in the US haven't been to, and it's one of the golf capitals here in the US. So looking forward to that. And then on my radar in November, we're trying to get into Chicago Toy and Game, Chitag, and our game again, it crosses over to sports. And it also crosses over to the toy world. It's been called a toy, and I don't take any offense to it at all. I think, having the fun little flicking mechanism and moving the pieces around, really can be interpreted as a toy. That doesn't mean that only, toddlers play with it. It's adults playing with a board game that can be considered a toy. But anyway, one of our distributors in the UK went to the London Toy Fair and had a lot of interest, and it just kind of opened my mind to look more towards toy fairs. So, throwing it out there on this podcast because maybe your game has that, potential to cross over as well, and has a certain theme that's its own kind of market or its own kind of um, retail space that's outside of necessarily just traditional board games. So I would encourage you to look into that if it's obviously if it's sports related like mine, the actual sport itself, the trades of the sport. We went to the PGA show in January in Orlando, so we were actually at the golf trade show and met some great people there. In fact, we met the person that's going to be distributing our game now in Canada, Full Wedge Golf. The owner's name is Andrew, and we met him just because we were at the PGA show. So think outside the box is something that I don't like to say because it's so cliche, but in this case, it's what we're talking about. Thinking about areas that your game might be able to sell outside of the traditional game stores. So just coming off of that, I'd love to know how many conventions you guys go to, how many different, is it just board games or do you go to other trade shows? Feel free to comment here and let me know. How do you prepare for them? What are your goals going into it? Do you plan meetings? I don't feel like I'm doing a great job with the conventions outside of Dice Tower. I think Dice Tower, we really do a great job. But when I'm not an exhibitor, I'm finding it, like I'm just not maximizing the potential of the shows. So, do you wander around like me and just try to make introductions where you can, or do you have a plan? Do you call people in advance? Do you look at the exhibitor list and try to set up meetings and things like that? Obviously, depending where you are in the industry, you'd have different goals. But I'm just wondering what your plan of attack is, for conventions and sharing that. And maybe, we could do a whole podcast just on that. I would love to interview anyone who actually is one of a host of a convention. There is one other convention, I think they call it like the World Series of Board Gaming in Las Vegas. That's just in its second year. And if you know anything about that, then definitely you can comment. I'm just going to make a note here myself. But that's another one that we'd love to see if we can be a part of. It's closer towards the end of the year, but I could imagine like the TGA tournament, the official TGA tournament being at this World Series of Board Gaming. And that obviously, as far as a goal for us, would just be, being a host and introducing a lot of people to the game and really showing people how this game is so exciting. And this game really, lends itself to a league and lends itself to, it's kind of like an indoor sport, really, the way I look at it. So a little bit there on just conventions and kind of opportunities that you might have that are non-conventional, if you will. Lots of times when we are an exhibitor, we'll set up a little part 3 and host a tournament and give the winner again like a game and a trophy. We usually get a good crowd doing that, and we also bundle our game with expansions and do well with that. But let me know too, as an exhibitor, do you do anything special to get people to your booth? What kind of little merchandise things maybe that you offer, or whatever little tips and tricks you can give me so I can share with the audience here would be great. We also have our Kickstarter Facebook page, so you can always, kind of comment there when we post a podcast. That would be great. Your feedback is super important. This is not a one-way download. As you can see, I have no shame in saying I'm learning a lot about the industry as I'm doing this. So let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter because again, tomorrow we're 30 days away, and so it's game time. All of the talk goes out the window. We have, started teasing it. Obviously, we have a built-in database of people, so it's a little bit of an advantage for us than someone who's starting completely from scratch. But we have the Kickstarter campaign page, up, and tomorrow, actually, if you guys listen to this today, tomorrow on March 16th, we're going to host 2 live Instagram lives. to basically go through the game. We're going to show you all the components in the game. We're going to talk about how they work. And then obviously we're going to talk about the Kickstarter itself, the different pledge levels, what you can expect on day one, and some stretch goals and some new expansions that we are going to offer. So we've been working on the two expansions for quite a while. And they were just kind of coming along, and I needed to really see the design and the illustrations before I like just officially announced that we're going to do this. So I'm super happy with the development so far, and we are going to go ahead and offer these two expansions. Not only are we going to offer the two expansions, but we're going to make them available in a big box version as well, in both the Pro edition, which is our wooden edition, our original version, and the new family edition, which is the cardboard edition. So it's very ambitious. I promised myself I was not going to, really go overboard. But you know what? We're all in, and we want to give our backers the best experience possible. So the first expansion, I do have the illustrations that I could share with you. I'm going to pop, if you're watching this, it's called the Frozen Tundra. So again, it'll come in the Pro and in the Family Edition. This was Felipe, our new artist, just nailed it. The snow-capped mountains, the pine trees, the frozen lake, and it's exactly what comes in the game. I have a little picture here of the tiles, so you can take a look. So we have this beautiful frozen lake. These are done by Rob Terrell. The half frozen lake, the the snow, the pine trees with the snow, and if right there in the top in the middle is the mountain. So I don't have it in front of me here, but we have there'll be two 3D mountains, like actual little, they're like kind of like that squishy material, like that stress ball relief kind of material, spongy. But they're nice size, they fit right on the tile. And now we're just adding to the 3D element of the game. So Meeple Beach introduced the trees, and now we're bringing it to the next level where there'll be pine trees as well in the frozen tundra, but there'll be mountains. And these mountains are literally, obstacles that you'll either have to go around or purposely hit your ball off of to ricochet and get yourself in position for the next shot. So, the whole thing with our game is we wanted to keep it, really true to the game of golf in that in golf you go through the air, you're not going on the ground. So we didn't want to make it a miniature golf game. However, we do get a lot of feedback from people wanting us to add some fun, 3D elements to it. And so I think we got a nice middle ground here with the trees and now the mountains. They really still keep true to the essence of the golf game. Obviously, in real golf, you're not bouncing your ball off of a mountain per se. But it's still, a mountain is something you're not hitting over, right? In golf, you got to go around it. And so in this game, the mountain really becomes that thing where you could position it so that you have to go around it to get into position, or you could position it so that there's an angle that you can kind of squeeze through, let's say, and actually hit your ball off the mountain. And so we do have some videos already that we'll be posting, and super excited about it. Whew. And then the second expansion is a more practical expansion in that it has a use, and basically we're calling it the stadium course. So the Waste Management tournament in Arizona is one of the more popular tournaments in golf, and there's a hole that's it's kind of called the stadium hole, and it's literally I think it's number 16, and the entire hole is surrounded by grandstands, and the people just are freaking out and screaming and crazy, and it's just a a version of golf that most people are not used to, and really an environment that you don't see anywhere else. So inspired by that, we're creating these a stadium like grandstand tiles, and here's the practical use of it. They're going to be thicker than any other tile, and so they're going to act as a backstop to the course. So a lot of times you flick it and you hit it too hard and it just goes flying off the table. And so now you're going to have these beautiful grandstands that'll surround, certain parts. There's only 10 of them, but still that's enough to surround your hitting zone and kind of create this barrier or this backstop so that the ball can hit it and bounce off it. Now, if it does hit it and bounce off it, it is still out of bounds. So it's not like you could use it to ricochet, but at least it'll keep your ball on the table, and then you would rehit. And man, aesthetically, it's just going to add a tremendously beautiful dynamic to the game. It's going to really just give it a lot of table presence. And we're really excited about it. So there you go. You guys heard it here first. We did tease our little frozen tundra in our private Facebook group, and got some good feedback there. But the stadium course is something that I haven't spoken to anyone about before, and you heard it here first. But you still haven't seen it yet, so you got to stay tuned for some updates. Make sure you're following our feed. And then I also want to talk about the day one promotions. We're doing something a little differently this year. So on day one, the promotions themselves will not be on the page, meaning there's no limited pledges like day one only pledge. We're not doing that. But we're telling everybody that on day one, if you pledge, you get a $10 coupon for add-ons and you will get a bonus pack of the balls. So it's a $15 value if you pledge, excuse me, on day one. So we're going to nonstop communicate it through emails, through our Kickstarter, on all of our social media. If you follow us at all, if you're part of the TGA at all, you should become aware of this promotion. But again, we're not going to put it as a special pledge on Kickstarter. So sometimes, a lot of times you hear about people just feeling a little bit, alienated or whatever because they miss a promotion. This will kind of, really minimize that. Obviously, some people that get the communication and the emails will still not be happy if they miss it. But, listen, that's not our fault, and we're doing everything we can to let everyone know about it. But it is super important to get funded on day one. So we do have a landing page where we're giving away a copy of the game and letting everyone know about the day one promotions, tablegolfassociation.com/Meeple Beach. So of course, it is super important to have a dedicated landing page to your campaign. And that's how we are also communicating our day one promotions. So that's pretty much what I have for us today. Um, I'd be interested to see what you think about that day one strategy. Not making it a separate pledge that expires on the page, but basically letting everyone that we are in contact with know that day one there's a $15 added value there. Obviously, anyone that pledges will be saving money on the retail of the game. The base game for the family edition is going to be $50, and the base game for the Pro edition is going to be $75. They're each discounted off of the retail. And then the big box for family edition is going to be $100, and Pro edition is going to be $155. But it's going to, again, come all in one big, beautiful box with all the expansions. And as far as stretch goals, we're thinking of expanding some of our previous stretch goal tiles. So we had tiles with like azalea bushes, and we had tiles that had a cart path. So we're thinking of maybe expanding the cart path tiles and making it a full 10 pack. This way you could really kind of put that cart path in your design. And the cart path does have a really interesting mechanic where the ball bounces forward. So it's fun. It's not just a visual of a cart path. Um, and then so that's the Kickstarter. I do want to have some updates. We did speak to BackerKit, and we have a new game in development. And if you go to Spaceborne the game, and Born ends in an E, so Spaceborne BORNE the game.com, is a tremendous game we're working on that is it's tile driven as well. But this is a semi-cooperative game that's going to just up the level of of excitement and anticipation. And I think you guys are going to love it. But anyway, we're thinking about launching it on BackerKit. So I'd love to hear from anyone who has worked with BackerKit as far as a crowdfunding campaign. We've worked with BackerKit on each of our campaigns. They are amazing team, and my contact there, Kerwin, is super awesome and supportive. So we spoke to him, and we have a lot of faith in what they're doing. He was telling me about some of the tools that they offer on BackerKit, how they're much more proactive in the promotions of the campaign than Kickstarter is. So I want to kind of give it a test, and would also be interested in what you think about that. Have you backed any games on BackerKit, and if you've launched any games on BackerKit, would love to hear from you. Um, And then, we're always working on making the process of fulfillment smoother. So we have worked out a new fulfillment deal with Zatu Games in the UK. They're one of the largest game retailers there in the UK, online game retailers. So super happy about meeting Dominic, and they really stepped in and saved our previous campaign. We were having a lot of issues with the fulfillment company and just getting told stories and misinformation, and backers were growing increasingly and accordingly upset. And finally we were able to get Zatu to step in and save the day. So we're really now in a good place with fulfilling for the UK and the EU. It should bring shipping costs down and definitely speed up the fulfillment process. We're also working a deal in Canada with Full Wedge Golf. Again, I met them at the PGA show, and that's going to help our Canadian backers bring shipping prices down there as well, and also speed up the process. And we find, as I mentioned earlier, we signed with Quartermaster Direct, so they'll be taking care of the US distro. So, that's so important. In this podcast and as a Kickstarter coach, you're only really as good as you can deliver on your word. And we definitely took a hit and credibility loss with the UK and EU. They basically had to wait almost a full 2 months more than what we anticipated them delivering it. And it was a lot of lessons learned there, and really just shoring up the foundation of the fulfillment. It's one of the most crucial parts. It's probably one of the more difficult parts because you're limited in what you can do. You're in one location and these people are in other locations around the world. So having the best people in place is super important, and I really feel like we have that now. So the next 30 days, we're going to be on full Kickstarter mode. Again, if you hear this podcast today, and you can join us tomorrow on our Instagram page, we're going to be live at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. We're just going to do two duplicate broadcasts there in case you're in the West Coast, you can't catch us at 10 a.m. or for whatever reason you can't, you can log in at 2 o'clock. Come and check out Maple Beach. We're going to go through everything, go through the mechanics, go through the Kickstarter pledges, show you a little bit more about the expansions, and just really, kind of get everyone up to date as we'll be 30 days from launch. So keep up the great work on your own designs. If you want to talk about your designs or upcoming crowdfunding, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, anything like that, you can email me at tablegolfassociation@gmail.com or go to kickstartercoach.com and just sign up there. Thanks, guys, very much. I'll be posting the next podcast in about 2 weeks to give you an update on the campaign and where we're at. And so I'll talk to you then. Take care. Bye-bye.